In this video, we'll learn how to use Excel pivot tables to summarize categorical data. We'll also learn how to take that data and create pie charts or bar graphs. Here we have an example that we'll cover in class. Let's suppose we've collected a set of 19 student responses on satisfaction with the science program. So you can see here in column A, this represents each individual or each student. They're represented by each row. And then in column B, we have their responses to how satisfied are you with the science program. Options range from very satisfied to not satisfied. Now we've learned in the past to recode our text variables or our categorical data into numbers, and this is what column C is. So if we developed a coding scheme where very satisfied equals 4 and not satisfied equals 1, we can recode them here. Programs like SPSS actually require us to transform text variables into numbers. However, in Excel with pivot tables, you actually do not need to do this step. We went ahead and did it just to help with best practice and to get us all familiar with recoding, but for the sake of the pivot tables in this example, we're actually only going to be working with column B, the text variables. So after we've input all of our data, what we want to do is highlight all of it. So bring your cursor here to this little triangle in the upper left, and we click on it. This automatically grabs all of our data in the worksheet. Now, let's go to Insert at the top, and then Pivot Table here on the left. When you click on Pivot Table, you will see that Excel automatically populates all of your data for you. You don't have to do anything to the table in range. You can also leave New Worksheet selected. And then we hit OK. This is what the pivot table looks like. We have our big open space here. This is where the pivot table will be generated, or a report. And on the far right, you can see that we have a pivot table field generator. This is where we click and build the report or build the pivot table. So here in this little shaded gray box, we have each of our variables. We have the respondent ID, we have the text variable of how satisfied you are with the science program, and we have the variable that we recoded. It's kind of hard to see the difference between these two, so make sure that you're aware of what your variable labels are. We want to take this second one here, this second variable, because this is the text data. I'm going to click and drag this down into rows. And when I do that, you can see here, it automatically populates the responses or the data. I'm going to hover again on the same variable and click and drag down to values. It should say count of how satisfied you are with the science program. If we look at our pivot table, you can see that we now have the frequency distribution of this variable. In other words, it shows us that of the 19 students, 2 students are reported being not satisfied, 6 were satisfied, 5 were somewhat satisfied, and 6 were very satisfied. This is a frequency distribution table. So now what we want to do is take this data and create a chart. I'm going to put my cursor here in A3, and I'm going to click and drag all the way down to B7. So I'm going to basically take our data here, and I'm going to copy. I'm going to hit Control C for Windows or PC, or Apple C if you have a Mac. You can also right click and copy. And I'm going to paste this into a new worksheet. So if you go here at the bottom, there's a little arrow, here's a new worksheet, and I'm just going to paste. To paste, you can use Control V for Windows or PC, Apple V, or you can right click and paste. So here I pasted. Let's drag this out so we can see everything clearer. Okay. To create our chart, we might want to reorganize our data. Right now, we have them in an order that doesn't actually respond to the ordinal nature of the variable, so I'm just going to move this around. Ooh, come back. Let's move it down. Let's say we want very satisfied up here, so I'm just going to reorganize. You can click and drag, you can cut and paste. Very satisfied to satisfied to somewhat satisfied. and the not satisfied. Okay, so now our data is in order, or in the ordinal order for the Likert scale. So if I click here again and select all of our data, I can go to Insert at the top, Charts, and I can find the pie chart right here. And then I can click on a 2D pie. And here's the basic chart Excel gives us. It's not too bad. We see that we have a title, we have the legend, and we have the different pie slices representing the data. We can do things to modify the chart, however. We can do that by, if you click on the chart, it'll highlight design here at the top. We can go to the far left for add chart elements, and you can see that we can toggle on different things, like perhaps data labels. And our data labels just give us the count. We can make this bigger and play with the font. We can edit the title if I just click and double click here. We can make this bigger. You can play around with Excel's different tools to modify and make this chart more usable, more friendly, and just more visually appealing. You might also want to change the colors. To do that, you can click on a pie slice. If you right click, you can automatically choose a color. You can change the font color as well. So this is how you make a pie chart. You might also want to make a bar graph. So same thing, if we click and highlight our data, we can go to Insert at the top. We can find our bar graph or our column chart. Here we have the 2D clustered column. And if we select, Excel gives us this basic chart. Similarly, we can edit these to make it look and feel the way we want. We might want to get rid of, let's say, the axes. If I click and delete, I can add data labels here. We can alter our title. We can remove the grid lines if I click on them and hit delete on my keyboard. We can shrink this. And let's make this bigger. And we can bring the title down. So there we have it. We learned how to summarize categorical data using pivot tables, and we learned how to create a pie chart and a bar graph in Excel.